The truth about a January 6th Capitol Hill police officer, Aquilino Gonell, is now up in the air. Questions about new video that was released because he said that something happened on January 6th, and the video kind of shows an alternative story. And so, as usual, this thread is from a great journalist reporter, our friend Julie Kelly on Twitter. She says this, she says, breaking. For 2.5 years, this Capitol police officer known as Aquilino Gonell has lied about his injuries he sustained on January 6th. You're kidding me! He has testified under oath and in federal court proceedings that he suffered near-death injuries. Well, we're going to watch the video. New January 6th video, and Julie Kelly's been a part of the team investigating the additional footage, contradicts Gonell's claims that protesters inflicted head, shoulder, hand, and foot injuries so egregious that he required surgery and medical leave, and also mental health trauma. In an impact victim statement made in court in May, and remember, we've talked about various sentencing proceedings here. You get convicted, then you get sentenced. And when you get sentenced, generally what happens is the prosecutors make their case, the defense makes their case, government wants max time, defense wants minimum time. You have a third party pre-sentence report from the courts, and they'll investigate it and give the court what's supposed to be a neutral opinion. But when you have victims, people who are physically injured, they get the opportunity to come speak and put together a victim impact statement. And sometimes they show up and they say minor things. Sometimes they show up, make a big deal out of it. Sometimes they don't show up at all. But this guy took full advantage, of course. In a victim impact statement made in court in May, Gonell told the judge that he was, quote, bleeding from both hands. Well, we'll check the video on that. That he had a maimed foot. All right, we'll see. That he was hit on the head, sprayed with pepper and bear spray, beaten, punched, pushed, pulled, and assaulted by many other rioters as they tried to gain entrance. But Julie says that here he is on video for several minutes near the body of Rosanne Boyland. Of course, we know that she passed away after the protest and violence ended. His hands show no sign of injury, nor does his shoulder as he takes off his gear. Feet seems fine. In fact, he's kicking items out of the area. And his head, which had been protected by a riot helmet, shows no signs of injury either. So not only did Gonell lie to Congress and federal judges in his victim impact statement, he's repeatedly lied during media interviews and on social media about the experience. And so the full video is here. We're going to play it, but there's no audio on this video. What we have done here is we are adding in the interviews that he has given on top of that footage, and we'll watch them both together. But it says, here is Gonell. He appears to have suffered no physical injuries, tearfully telling CNN about his woes. Another one, sworn testimony. He said, this is how I'm going to die. He also said apparently he tried to save Rosanne Boyland, but Julie, who's been going through all of the video, says there's no video of him attempting to resuscitate her at any point because she's watched all of this. Says further, there's no video and it doesn't even show her anywhere in her vicinity at the time. So a lot of questions about this story. Another one, they're saying Gonell has just lied. And so there was this other clip before we go through and play the actual video footage so you can judge for yourself. Here was one clip when he was talking with NBC News.
Sergeant Gonell realized something else was wrong. He was injured, and seriously. A thrown speaker device crushed his foot, and a stolen riot shield and police baton ripped into his shoulder and right hand.
I'm working with through physical therapy. I had 2 surgeries already.
9 months later, he's still off the job, trying to recover physically.
My right thumb, it still hurts.
Right thumb still hurts. And you heard this journalist person say that I thought he said it was ripped open. Didn't he say something was ripped open? I've stubbed my thumb too. It really does hurt. Sometimes, you ever stub your toe? I mean, it hurts even worse than your thumb. Man, it hurts for like a couple hours for sure. So CNN also had a story about this. This guy had to resign because of his injuries. Wow, you're kidding. Officer was injured on January 6th, says resigning wasn't his choice, but he had to because he was so injured. A U.S. Capitol Police officer, according to CNN, injured on January 6th, said the mob did that to me. It's a tough decision that after 16 years, I've got to retire. I'm leaving now because of my own accord, because of the people who support Trump. He announced his departure, citing the riot and lingering trauma as the key reason he decided not to return. They said we're grateful for his service. He said there was a mean photo that somebody taped on his computer, that they crumbled it and threw it into the trash. And then he scanned the photo, and apparently it was a mean photo that somebody taped on his computer. Might have been another Capitol Hill police officer who said, hey, bro, you're full of crap. So since responding to the attack on the Capitol nearly 2 years ago, Gonell has become the public face of the insurrection's toll. Here you see, Gonell was badly beaten on January 6th. as rioters transcended on the U.S. Capitol, bludgeoned police and sprayed chemical irritants. And I get really irritated about this. It's like stolen valor, man. They said that Brian Sicknick was murdered by the mob, and that's not true. You can go read the Capitol Hill police statement about that. They say that he died of natural causes the following day. And they say, yeah, that maybe the other, the riot was a contributing factor or something like that, but it was not even closely related to the cause of death. And so they sold that to all of us like it was true, like the Trump rioters murdered Brian Sicknick. Not true at all. So they just make up stuff. Gonell was badly beaten, they said. He was caught in a tunnel of the West Gate, engaging some of the most brutal fighting of the day. The hours-long fight, here we go, left Gonell with injuries to his foot and shoulder, spent months undergoing multiple surgeries and extensive medical rehabilitation. All right, and we're going to watch the video. Multiple surgeries and extensive medical rehabilitation. He eventually returned to the department working light duty. Although my goal has been to return to full and unrestricted duty, my medical conditions are permanent. Oh, man. So, man, he'll probably get lifetime this, lifetime that, all sorts of other amazing things. Having to return to the scene of the crime almost every day has become unbearable. It's in my best interest to take time off. And so here's the video footage. You'll see we superimposed in some of his dramatic interviews with the other news sites. Here's what it all looks like.
What was the worst thing they called you?
Traitor.
Why was that the worst thing?
That's Gonell.
Because I served my country. I want to see.
Right foot looks good. Mask comes off. Shoulder looks good.
Foreign threats.
Don't see any blood on the hands.
But yet here I am battling them in our own capital. I got hurt.
You got hurt? What was hurt?
I would do it again if I have to.
Yeah, I'm sure
it's
you
my
would.
job. Kept saying, Trump sent me. We won't listen to you. We are here to take over the Capitol. We are here to hang my pens. They thought we were there for them, and we weren't.
He's
So they
still
turned
just
against
moseying
us.
around over
It
there.
was very scary. I thought I was going to lose my life right there.
Puts his mask on so he doesn't catch COVID.
Testing my wife.
All right, kind of just hanging out now.
And all I said to her, I'm okay.
Put his COVID mask
See you
on.
whenever. When I came in,
Make sure you don't catch that COVID.
she wanted to hug me, and I told her no.
All right, those hands look pretty good. We're looking at those hands down there. Don't see a broken thumb. Don't see bloody hands anywhere. This is after it's all over. Looks like his mobility looks pretty good. Moving around. Foot looks,
Because I was covered.
foot looks good.
I was covered in
On the
pepper
radio.
spray. My hands were bleeding.
Your hands were bleeding.
Still.
They're bleeding? What? Where? Where's the blood, man? I don't see it anywhere. I don't see it. They look pretty clear to me.
I was covered in pepper spray. My hands were bleeding still. And I couldn't even sleep. So I took a shower, and instead of helping,
Yeah.
that re-inflamed the chemicals.
It had soaked through your clothes.
Yes.
Yeah, he's covered.
Took a bath with milk. Give my wife a hug. I started crying.
Why?
Because I got
Everything that
attacked.
happened, I didn't think I would be able to see them. I went to my son's bed and gave him a hug. He was asleep still.
All right, so he's still just moseying around. You can just see. Let's fast forward, see if anything changes. And so now he's moseying around. We'll pick it up here. Now he's testifying in front of Congress.
I vividly heard officers screaming in agony and pain, just an arm length from me. I didn't know at that time, but that was Officer Hodges. He's here today to testify. I, too, was being crushed by the rioters. I could feel myself losing oxygen and recall thinking to myself, this is how I'm going to die, defending this entrance. Many of the officers fighting alongside me were calling for shields because their shields had been stripped from them by the rioters. I was one of the few officers left with a shield, so I spent the majority of my time in the front of the line. I later find out that my wife and relatives were here in the U.S. and abroad, were frantically calling and texting me from 2 p.m. onward.
All right, so now he's turning around. Look, he's shaking his hands a little bit.
Because they were watching the turmoil on television.
Looking like he's moving on that foot pretty good, too.
It was now until 4:26 p.m. after giving CPR to one of the rioters who breached the Capitol in an effort to save her life.
That's Roseanne Boylan.
That I finally had a chance to let my own family know that I was alive.
Did he say he gave her CPR?
On television. It was now until 4:26 p.m. after giving CPR to one of the rioters who breached the Capitol in an effort to save her life that I finally had a chance to let my own family know that I was alive.
Wait a minute. Did he just say he was giving her CPR? What? I'm pretty sure that's what he said. I don't see him giving her CPR. I see a bunch of other people giving her CPR and trying to help her, but not him.
After order has been restored at the Capitol, in many hours, I arrived home at nearly 4 a.m. on January 7th. I had to push my wife away from me because she wanted to hug me. And I told her no because of the other chemical that I my uniform and had it on.
Now they're
I
going,
couldn't sleep because the
looking at the
chemical
IV.
reactivated after I took a shower.
There he is over there
My
on the backside.
skin was burning. I finally fell asleep 2 hours later, completely physically and mentally exhausted. Yet by 8 o'clock
Yeah,
a.m.,
you were an officer at a riot.
I was already back,
You were an
my way
officer
back
at
to
a
the
riot.
Capitol.
That's your job.
And I continued to work for 15 consecutive days until
Wow.
after the inauguration.
Wow.
I made sure to work despite my injuries because I wanted to continue doing my job and help secure the Capitol complex. More than 6 months later, I'm still trying to recover from my injuries.
Yeah, that thumb too, man.
Many of my fellow
Stub thumb.
Capitol officers, as well as MPD officers, suffer.
There was a picture of Donald Trump taped to my computer screen.
Do you think it was somebody joking around, somebody being a jerk, somebody trying to intimidate
He's
you?
walking
What's
pretty
your
good right
interpretation
there.
of
I
that?
had no idea, but I did. At first, I crumbled it, put it in the trash, but then I said to myself, no, I can't now that
Got pretty close to that woman right there, asking her, not too worried about that pepper spray on that one.
that happened, because that's going to entice them to do it again. So I scan it, send it out to the chain command and tell them, like, this is unacceptable, and it is very insensitive of whoever did it, whether they did it on jesting or not.
Yeah, I wonder if he had just come back from Subway. Did the sign say, "This is MAGA country, Capitol Police Officer"?
Hold Donald Trump responsible for the riot. That's the reason. That's the point they were trying to.
I guess.
What are you going to do now?
Just completed a book.
Oh!
I turned it in today.
Oh, just completing a book and turning it in. Amazing. So not a big surprise. Of course, you can be the judge of that. He looks pretty okay to me, kind of hanging around on that foot. Shoulder looks good. Sounds like he had a rough night's sleep, which I think is probably true. I mean, if you get home late, your sleep cycle can be off a little bit. And if you got to get up the next morning, it's hell being tired. And when I get tired, I get pretty cranky too. So, I can relate to those things, but all of the other fictional narratives do have real world consequences. And so this guy, even though he might be living in his little deluded fantasy land, is causing real pain and suffering to people who are going through the system. Julie Kelly says Officer Gonell's lies about J6 actually matter. He goes to trials and he files victim impact statements that say stuff like this. He said, in one case, Your Honor, on January 6, I rose to the occasion as a police officer. And his actions, look, he says, Mr. Fitzsimmons' actions during the insurrection severely injured me when he was tearing my arm and shield as he violently pulled me into the mob. All right, that's what he writes. So this goes in front of a judge, and he says, I was severely injured. Did you see that at all? I was certain I would not survive that ordeal. Michael Fanone was punched and tased. He was beaten and tased. I'm certain I would not have survived. At the mouth of the tunnel, he tells us, somebody tried to grab me. Due to his actions, my family and I have suffered physically, mentally, financially. He ended my law enforcement career. He did? You resigned. I can no longer do the job I love. So anytime you stop somebody who's a criminal, that's all accepted risk anyways. So he was involved in stopping criminality, and now he's blaming the criminal for wrecking his career or something. It's like, all right. So, the point is, these letters went out. He said that they were injuring, threatened. He says family and friends were beaten. These people should be prosecuted to the end of the earth. And the DOJ is complying. And so it's a really sad set of affairs. It's a gut punch when you see people who are openly dishonest, exploiting something, whether it's for fame or finances. Their stories always change a little bit. And, I think as Americans and as people, we want to give police officers the benefit of the doubt by default, or at least we did. The question is, are we still going to do that when these people are exploiting this for their own ends, for their own gain, and the evidence doesn't match the stories they tell?